All right, excellent. So, 30 minutes. Let's talk about this really fast. A little bit of history about myself. 25 years in Silicon Valley, 37 years in the United States, born in India, educated and raised up in Africa until high school, then England, then France, then Texas. Try very hard to figure out how we can be global citizens. And what I'm really enjoying here, first of all, I really love Poland. The food here is to die for. You know, it's just magnificent. You notice one thing, this doesn't close very well. 3 days ago, it was closing just fine. That just tells you a lot about the hospitality. Everybody's really been very innovative. I've talked to very interesting people who are doing some amazingly transformational things around here. So, digital economy. What is a digital economy? Let's go through a little history about this. We started a long time ago, a couple of thousand years ago. We had tribes. We lived in very small pockets. We bartered with each other. There were hunters, there were fishermen, there were some farmers. There was very little specialization. You spent the whole day looking for food and shelter and trying not to get eaten by the animals. Everything was very small, very regional, you know. And there was a lot of raiding back and forth, so you went to places with larger resources if you were stronger and you took their stuff. And slowly it got a little bit better. We ended up further up into the classical age. The Greeks, you know, came up with the citizens concept. The Indians, the Mayans, you notice larger organizations evolved, but still very reasonable on the planet. Not any interconnected, you know, but some travel, people sailed, they went across oceans, people traded across continents, and you started seeing some level of mechanization. The wheel helped, new inventions. So every little time that you made a progress, we humans inherently are disruptive. We like to change things around. We get bored. We want adventure. You know, for a long time, it was discovering Columbus, other people, Magellan. It was, let's go find new lands. You had, the Phoenicians who did the same thing in the Mediterranean, who were the traders. And so we like to do that trading thing, and we like to look at adventure, and that adventure is always disruptive. And wherever it's disruptive, you know, we've had a lot of conversations today about millennials. Yeah, whether you're doing disruption on age, or whether you're doing disruption on technology, or whether you're doing disruption on trade, we like doing this. We will find a problem. If it's not broken, we will break it, and then we will remake it again. And that's, I think, what is happening to us as we have these conversations. So next, empires emerge, the Romans. And again, the common theme is technology. Does anybody know what's the biggest invention the Romans had? Anybody? Chip? Aqueducts is one, but you know what's even better than aqueducts? Cement. To this day, the biggest invention Romans had is cement. And because they invented cement, they were able to make roads. And because they're able to make roads and engineering, they're able to create buildings and aqueducts. Aqueducts, all of a sudden you could move water up to higher levels than lower levels. So you ended up with a form of revolutionary thinking and engineering. And the good thing about us humans, we're lots of bad things, we like to fight with each other, but the good thing is once we get a technology and we share it, it becomes part of our engineering DNA. So they shared it through the empires they built, and even though the empire collapsed, that technology didn't go away. It just remained, and it became accelerated, and knowledge got moved up further, you know? And this is one thing to keep in mind. You will repeatedly see technology moves. And every time, by the way, there's going to be a group of us who are going to say, no, 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 the sky is falling. Remember that guy? The little chicken? The sky is falling. And then there's a group of us going, thank God we have rain. The technology shift will always cause the people who are going to complain, and then there'll be the people who will be the adopters, and we will move forward. By the way, in this one, the key thing is the Romans also invented money. You know, all those coins they keep finding, and you know, and when they keep digging with the emperor's face on it, they created money. Correspondingly, on the other side of the planet in China, they also had developed money with the stamp and, you know, the coins with the holes in them. And so the evolution of money in two different parts of the world, it was very interesting because it allowed a common currency, a common way of accelerating trade, you know, and it really, really shifted how the world thought. Specialization started to happen. We weren't hunter-gatherers anymore. We started to farm. We started to have different trades and vocations, and then markets, based on that, markets evolved. But they were still predominantly barter-oriented markets. Barter-oriented markets. Then, of course, we get the Dark Ages, the Huns, you know, all the people, you know, you've got all that death and destruction. Strangely enough, even then, there was trade. So who took on the trade when the Roman Empire fell? Any ideas? It was the Moors. It was the Moors, and they took on the trade and kept extending it, and then the Silk Road, you know, it came about. The city-states evolved. You ended up with very interesting little small pockets of knowledge that kept, again, technology alive. And in every one of those instances, a new market evolved. So, but remember, what was the other thing? The church. The Catholic Church evolved. They became very powerful. And this was a reaction to the Dark Ages, that whenever we are faced with fear, we look to God. We ask, okay, how are we going to be able to do this with an evolutionary think, okay, let me think after my life. Of course, what does that lead us to? Humanism. A renaissance emerges, people get tired, the Dark Ages kind of move up. Again, another empire, you know, whether it was good or bad, it fell, people move forward. Nietzsche, you know, what was he known for? You know, the rise of the individual. He said God is dead. I don't think God died, but it was very interesting that you saw parallel streams of thought. In this process, what's happening, technology is increasing, and also the value of the individual. The value of the individual. But we still had monarchies. We still had princes and fiefdoms, and so there were the power elite who owned land, who owned everything, and then the people who worked for them. But thought is moving, knowledge is moving, people are starting to get educated, even though in pockets. They're starting to get educated, and if you think across the globe, the Mayans and everybody else, then the Indus Valley, there's an evolution that is happening. There's lots of knowledge that's coming out of there. Water is now aqueducts become a normal part of life. You know, you're moving water everywhere. And the value of the individual keeps increasing. Pretty soon after that, the Magna Carta, right? The rights of an individual become codified in the Magna Carta, which led to many of our modern constitutions, at least, you know, England and in the United States. That's the source of this. But everywhere else also, the value of the individual gets really better. Okay, 20th century, industrialization. Trade really starts. We've developed a few other things. We've developed shipping. The technology has allowed us to develop shipping. It started with whale oil, but pretty soon we have light. You know, we have started developing industries. We are developing coal is being used. So the advent of easily available power accelerates, one, our thinking, and two, our ability to then create new things. Coal, along with iron, helps us create steel. Oil also another cheaper form, higher density value of energy in a smaller container, if you really think about it. So you went from whale oil to coal to petroleum-based products. They start coming out, and we have massive industrialization. Different specializations emerge. People are either manufacturing, the raw materials. We have colonialism. We have raw materials being sourced from colonies that are coming to industries in Europe and the United Kingdom, and people are building factories. So you end up with these pipelines, a supply pipeline, a cotton pipeline, they're weaving cloth, they're manufacturing pipe. So you get steel being developed, you get all kinds of wonderful specializations start happening. The other thing that happens, markets develop. We're able to communicate with each other. Telegraph, telephone, some internet, early stages if you go back 30, 40 years. But telegraph and telephone alone created a lot of information that went across. So you were able to do the best thing in markets, we're able to speculate. The arbitrage develops. We know when the cotton crop is going to come in. We know when the grain is going to come in. We have people who are able to trade it. Futures develop. So we had sophistication, specialization. Markets are evolving. There's a link in this. You'll get this presentation. This link is a visualization. You can go and visualize the pipelines from Asia, from any country you pick on a map, uses Google Maps. Any country that you pick on a map, and it'll show you where the flow of goods and services goes. And it's very interesting to watch because you see it flowing from Asia to Europe. You see different, you can pick, Zimbabwe, and you'll see little dots going. If you see China, you'll see giant streams going. It's very interesting to watch who are the trading partners and what's happening. The other piece that happens is we now create alliances. The alliances are either based on security or trade. We have the European Union here, and the European, it is such a valuable thing to be able to trade freely with each other. Of course, in the United States, we are discussing how to do that, and we have waves. You get protectionism and protecting ourselves, and you'll get openness, and you see that wave, and it goes in cycles based on fear. So this is the question I ask. If we're doing all this global good, why is there fear? Why is there hate? I get along with Chip gets along with me, I get along with Magda, she gets along with me. Many times we don't speak a common language. We've got these nice little devices, we've been wearing them that translate what I'm saying in English into Polish. I'm sure if someone's speaking Italian, it would translate into Polish, and from Polish back to English or other languages. And yet, all of a sudden, we go through this fear. Do you know, when was the last great war? When did that end? Anybody? 1945. How many years ago? Now I have to do mathematics, right? 74 years. So nobody, with the exception of very few people, have an experience of a giant war here. We don't know what it's like to have conflict. And yet, we see a lot of change coming. We see a lot of change coming. And every time we see disruption and large-scale change, a generational shift, we always go into fear. But you know a very interesting secret? The physical reaction for fear and the physical reaction for excitement in the human body is the same thing. I challenge you to think, as I talk to people across the globe, look, listen, I wear a turban. Half the time in the US, people don't even know where I'm from. And it gets even more confusing because I show up and they're like, where are you from? And I say, Texas. Then they're like, no, before that. I'm like, okay, Zambia. And then they get really confused because where is Zambia? It's in Africa. And a lot of Americans in Africa, they think of Africa as just one monolithic continent with guys in skirts. And then this guy in a turban shows up and it doesn't compute. Wait, you don't look like an African. I'm like, what is an African supposed to look like? Right? What, Tarzan? Or the white people in Africa can only look like Tarzan. and black people in Africa can only wear skirts. It doesn't make sense, right? But we get trained by these caricatures. We make cartoon characters in our head about this stuff. What's a guy in India look like? He's got to ride an elephant. That would be cool, but nobody has that many elephants. I don't mind riding an elephant, but it's very hard to climb on an elephant. And the maintenance problem, oh my God, you don't want to know that. But this evolution creates stereotypes and caricatures, and we end up in this fear mode. And there are some people, they love beating the fear drum. And then I come to the EU. I met so many wonderful people here in Poland, all different languages flying. It was funny. I was listening to a guy, he's speaking Spanish, so I understand Spanish. He's talking to his friend, and he's saying, my girlfriend asked me to buy her a diamond only from Tiffany's, and we are laughing like crazy because he's telling the story, but I would only be able to laugh because I understand the language. And he looked at me, and this was in the airport and in the lounge, and he looked at me, he goes, "You understand?" I said, "See." And then we start laughing even more, And this connection that we create is easy to not listen to people if we hate. But I have a certain metric. I want to trade with you. I want you to trade with me because we transfer three things: goods, services, but most importantly, we transfer knowledge. We transfer value by transferring knowledge, and knowledge, strangely enough, is the new commodity of exchange. So think of it, rise of technology. How many of you think technology might be the new God? I asked this question a whole bunch. See, there's one over there. Anybody else? You can raise your hands, it's okay. Another one over there. I asked this question of a bunch of Jesuit priests who came to visit Silicon Valley, and I said, how many of you think technology is the new God? They're looking at me like I'm the heretic. And you know what happened? Half of them raised their hand. And I said, how come you raised your hands? They said, because the people who trust us trust technology more than they trust God. I said, so why do you say that? They said, because technology is being used to inform. It is no longer being used to scare. It's being used to inform and educate. And these are Jesuits. I got educated by Jesuits. I was like, wait, this is very different from what I used to, hear. If you did something bad, they beat you on your hand, and they made you say the Hail Mary about 5 times. And as a Sikh, that was really something. But this new thing I ask, okay, so technology is here. Who's winning? Who's losing? This makes markets. Do you know how much money China is investing in technology right now? It's almost $1 trillion. Do you know why? Anybody guess? They are not investing. So China is playing the long game. They want to invest for 200 years, 500 years, and they're thinking of that long game. And in that long game, they want to win not as a leader of a consumer of technology, but as a supplier of technology. So they come to Silicon Valley, and they're like, do you have any AI companies? And of course, right now, even the baker, he says, look, my croissant is made with AI. And I said, how is your croissant made with AI? It's simple. I use my brain, that's AI. I said, what about it is artificial? He says, I use butter. That's artificial. And everybody, that was the last 2 years ago, everybody was on crypto kick. We had crypto bagels, we had crypto chips. Everybody wanted to have crypto. This year, it's AI. And then there's a fear part. So who loses? Who loses? Any guesses? Magda? Who loses with the rise of technology? Those who stay behind. Magnificent, yes. Only the people who don't adopt technology lose. And I'll give you a very good example. So my mother is 82. 2 years ago, for the first time in her life, after my father passed away, we gave her a cell phone. We gave her an iPhone. At first, she was like, I don't know how to use this. This is very terrifying. 2 weeks later, I get a SMS. I figured out SMS. 3 weeks later, she's on WhatsApp. She's still typing slowly. Now she's typing. Now she sends me video. 82 years old, 2 years ago, never touched technology. Now she sends me video. Hi, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing? I'm going to cook. So I asked my mother, I love to cook. I said, I want a recipe, how to make potatoes, your recipe. She said, okay, I take a video. I'm thinking to myself, how did this happen? My mother, who is 82 years old, who didn't touch a computer in her whole life, who never looked at an iPad, all of a sudden we give her a cell phone, and guess what happens? Magic. Magic. She starts to use technology. So now she asks me, she does more videos than I do. I take a video of my, I'm cooking, I'm taking a video. Then I said, what'd you do with that video? She said, oh, I sent to all my group. I said, what group? They said, oh, we have all these old ladies. We have a group now. Oh, what is the average age of the group? 76. I'm like, what? How many of you? 30? 30 old ladies sending recipes to each other, talking to each other on a cell phone, and sending WhatsApp to each other. How are you doing? Did you take your medicine? Da, 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 da. I'm like, really? Yeah, she forgets her medicine, so in the morning I tell her, take your medicine. This is people using technology. But what you're seeing, you notice in this graphic, is I purposely put this in because I think we are all at some stages of this. How many of you have more than one mobile device? I mean, iPad, iPhone, more than one mobile device. How many have your car has more than one computer chip in it? By the way, do you know what an average Audi, I have an Audi. An average Audi has 42 computer chips in it? It's amazing. It gets to, we are now at the age of doing information. But then people say things like, what's coming? 5G. 5G is very interesting. And I won't read the slide, okay? The biggest thing that's going to happen is we're going to be hyper-connected all the time at a speed at which it will be like turning lights on and lights off. Do you remember? Okay, so I grew up in Africa. There was a time when we didn't have light came from this time to this time, and that was the time you did your cooking, you did your washing, and maybe if you were lucky, you heated the water so you could take a bath, hot water bath. Otherwise, you had cold water. But it's going to become a utility. You turn the light on, you don't think the light is not going to come. The light is on. The light is off. And this is what's going to happen with connectivity. But it's going to be connected at a level that is going to be unprecedented. And this is going to create revolution in thinking. If I don't need to download a movie, or I can download a movie in 10 seconds, what is that going to do? My mother's recipe, she's going to do a video. We are going to go to that age where we can be watching something and transmitting it. I can be watching my mother cooking and transmit it to Chip, and Chip will be like, okay, I'll do the same thing. And there'll be this death of distance. Distance will not matter anymore. It will change the shape of work. Systems will have zero latency. It will change the shape of entertainment. All kinds of interesting things. Time will become valuable. Everybody's talking about, I heard so much about AI today. AI this, AI that. I'm afraid of AI. AI is going to kill me. AI is going to be the magic that solves everything. I'm going to tell you a secret about AI. First of all, we're about the level of a brain of a rat, okay? We're only looking for cheese, and we can't do multiple things. We need multiple layers of this. But secondly, we're still only speeding things up. I can make something faster. I cannot make it shift laterally and do thinking like we humans do. We're trying, but it's going to take time. What kind of intelligence will this lead to be? How is it going to become extended? These are really important. And the most important question, ethics and morality. Ethics and morality. Really important for us to think through, because just like weapons and everything we develop has a good and a bad ability to do things. We can do good with it, we can do bad things with it. So what are these economies? When you are completely connected and you can trade, we will end up with platforms. Remember, we had pipelines. We have raw materials in one area, we mine it, then we take it to another area, we process it, then we sell it in another area. That was a pipeline. What's happening now is we're shifting from pipelines to platforms. Apple, Amazon, Alibaba. Apple just released a new credit card with Goldman Sachs. By the way, it's better than many other credit cards. They are already oversubscribed. I was talking to a friend of mine at Apple. He says, yeah, well, more than 10 million people already applied for it. Is Apple a tech company or is Apple a bank? This starts changing who we are. We just announced Silicon Valley is going to get a trading exchange. And what happens to cities that want to be relevant and be smart? Dubai, I was just in Dubai. There's nothing there, just big buildings, people. They don't even have oil, but they're becoming a hub because they decided we want to become the information exchange, the broker between people, smart cities, Singapore, all of these places are doing this. You guys all know about the Estonia story. I can go become a digital citizen of Estonia. You can become a digital citizen. They made the ability to make a company like that. You can start a company in an hour, and you don't even have to even step foot over there. New modern days barter. The new model. I don't have to charge a price. There's this wonderful woman named Amanda Palmer, and she was one of the first people to give her music away. And she told people, if you like it, give what you want. If you can't afford it, it's free. Some guy wrote a check for her for $10,000. She makes more money giving her stuff away than she did ever putting a price to it. And all these influencers, remember all these influencers? They're all on Instagram, Facebook, they're all influencing people. This is how you create value, but then who do we leave behind? Who do we leave behind? And this becomes a very important thing. I'm going to skip through blockchain. But the only thing is what happens when governments start making digital currencies? It's going to come. Dubai is already thinking of it. Silicon Valley's got it. We're going to do that. This is the other question. When time becomes a currency. So my goal is to help you understand and have questions on what to do with the new markets, because each one of these, to me, as a venture capitalist, is an opportunity that you can create. It's very important. And I'll end with this, but I want you to ask me questions. How do we get from the me society to the we society? Because I really think that in order for us to create high value and get away from fear and have new digital markets is because we start thinking about we. Now, that doesn't mean socialism. That means how we create value for each other in such a way that we are able to help everybody uplift themselves. Otherwise, we're going to have crazy migrations because the people that don't have will want to go to the place where people have. But if I can create value where people can have, wherever they live, why would they leave? And this is, I think, the challenge we face in creating the new digital economy is how do we make it a we economy, not a me economy? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Supreet Manchanda.